Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Mandi, author of 10 young adult novels so far. Welcome to January's mid-month Chit-Chat. This is the video where I set up the camera and just talk about what's been happening. Writing, reading, etc. Basically anything I want to talk about. And I drink tea. Generally out of this specific mug, unless I'm drinking out of a different one. If you hear noises, my nephew is playing right now. He doesn't take morning naps anymore, and it's difficult to film in the afternoons because he might be napping, but other chaos is happening, so until he, yells that he needs help, we'll just have his playing in the background. It's fine. Oh, so what have we been doing in the writing world? I finished the first draft of book 3 in my Inspired by King Arthur fantasy series, so that was great. I sort of took some brief notes and prepped for an outline to get ready for book 4. However, I haven't made an outline or started writing book 4 because I've shifted focus. I do want to write book 4 this year, the first draft anyway. I'm thinking either in February because my critique partner and also the rest of the writing group that I'm part of that's jumping on this bandwagon is doing a pretend nano in February. So I might start it then. April is also the official Camp Nano. July is another official Camp Nano. So that's 3 months that I could focus on it. However, during those 3 months I have scheduled myself to be focused on a different writing project. So, while I know I could split myself, I had an entire week where I was finishing book 3 and doing my other writing project, and it was fine, it was great, I was super productive on both. And I, was able to finish book 3, so it went well. But I don't know that making myself do both projects at the same time is a good idea. So the other option is to save book 4 for NaNoWriMo, because I will be relatively done with my other writing project by then. So that is probably the plan. I will write book 4 of the fantasy series in NaNoWriMo, and then I will spend 2023 doing revisions, rewrites, edits, whatever. Maybe start publishing in 2023. It depends on how long it takes to do revisions, I guess. We'll see how that goes. The other writing project that has taken over this year is that I am rewriting all of my old books. So, back to the beginning. I always told stories as a kid. I would script the games, apparently, that I played with my siblings. I don't specifically remember this, but I vaguely remember this. Anyway, yeah, and I thought something was on my shirt, and it was the light from the window. Anyway, I would tell stories when coloring. This I do remember. I had two stories that I kept drawing over and over and over again every time I sat down to draw. One of them was a tornado. I don't know why, but I remember always drawing the tornado, which was just a bunch of swirls. What I remember from that drawing is I always drew a Walmart bag. I don't know why, but I really loved drawing the Walmart bag blowing in the wind with a little smiley face on it, because that used to be Walmart's logo, not the little happy flower thing. Anyway, yeah, so there was that, and then I also had the guy who's mowing his lawn. So I would draw this little house, a little stick figure, color some green crayon grass, and then I'd get another sheet of paper, do the same house, same little stick figure man, but his grass was taller. I'd make tall grass, and then another sheet of paper with the same house, same little stick figure man, except now he's got a fake little mower, and half the grass is still tall and half of he's mowed it, and that was my favorite to draw. I would draw the man mowing his yard. Anyway, the point is I've always been telling stories ever since I was a small child. When I was 12 to 14-ish, I started writing actual writing stories. I believe that's when I wrote my kid books, Who's a Banana, and something about a turkey, the gobbler or something. It's up there somewhere. Anyway, yeah, I think it was in middle school that I wrote those 2 kid stories, which are not published. And then around that time I started writing my first novel. which is also not published. It's called African Grace, and it's about a 14-year-old missionary, because I was 14 when I was writing that one. Anyway, I do kind of love that story, and maybe someday we'll go back to it. My mother wants me to. I think that's her favorite one of everything I've ever written. But anyway, that's the history of me. And then I spent several years working on the African Grace saga, because it's a whole series. Interestingly, the story starts with ancient Grace looking out at the young grandchildren, great-grandchildren of a village in Africa, and she starts reminiscing about her youth, and then you flash back into the actual story of 14-year-old Grace, her first visit to this village, and then slowly, like, becoming a missionary. Anyway, that's interesting to me looking back on, because the next book that I wrote was Lucy's Legend, which, if you've read it, starts with ancient Lucy telling the story to her great-granddaughter. I just had this, like, that's just how I told stories, okay? We start with the old people reminiscing. That's what we do. I know why I did that, because, I don't know if I own this one, now that I think about it. I read a lot of Jeanette Oke growing up. Ridiculously a lot. All of them. I don't own all of them, but I read all of them and I was obsessed. And there's one specific book, which I don't think I have. They called her Mrs. Doc, I believe is what it's called. Anyway, it's about a doctor, but it starts with her being old and sitting on a porch and drinking her tea, and then, like, she reminisces, and then boom, you're in the, you know, younger her story. And I loved that book. I reread it multiple times. It was great. I haven't read it in years. I don't own it, apparently. I don't know. Anyway, I loved it, and I think that's why the first two books that I ever, like, actually wrote and finished started in that sort of fashion. But anyway, so yes, when I was 17, I wrote Lucy's Legend, my first Robin Hood retelling, and it took me a month to write it, and then immediately following that, I wrote the story of Gisborne, which is actually book 5 in the series, because I held on to it for a very long time. But anyway, it was the third book that I ever wrote, the second Robin Hood retelling. It took me 2 months to write that one. And then I spent the next 8 years immersed in this Robin Hood world. Wow. It's a lot. When I first published Lucy's Legend, I published under Amanda Grace, because I wanted my name on my books. And I published all 5 of the original Robin Hood series under Amanda Grace. I also published my dystopian trilogy under Amanda Grace. And then I finally switched to Mandi. But I think I had like 3 or 4 books published by the time I realized I wanted to switch to Mandi, but it took a long time for me to have the courage to just do it. So basically, there are a lot of Amanda Grace authors, it turns out, and they already found success. So finding my books with an internet or Amazon search, you can't. Even if you type in, like, I mean, it could be different now, I don't know. But when I first started, even if you typed in Lucy's Legend by Amanda Grace, it would not come up on Amazon, which is just excessively annoying. So because of that reason, I wanted to switch my name slightly so that I wasn't one of the many. I also didn't really mind the switch because I've answered to Mandi for most of my life. So, anyway, the point is, what is the point? 6 years, roughly, after publishing the first book, I am now rewriting all of them and publishing them under Mandi Grace. Yeah, that's what I'm doing this year. I'm currently working on Lucy's Legend. I am the third-ish of the way through Lucy's Legend. The way I've scheduled it is I've given each book a month for rewrites. For Lucy's Legend, this isn't going to be a problem. A, because I've already been working through it very swiftly. It's been going well. And B, because the story itself is one of the most put-together stories of my early published works. There's not a whole lot that needs adjusting. I mean, I am adjusting a lot, don't get me wrong. You can watch my rewrites vlogs and see, you know, I'm changing a lot, but at the same time, the bones of the story are staying the same. I am concerned with the 3 books in the middle, Always in Shadow, Destiny, and the Tragedy of a Traitor, that they will take longer, because the bones of their stories are not as strong. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. The story of Gisman I expect to be much like Lucy's Legend, or even easier, in fact, because I wrote it at the same time as Lucy's Legend, so they both were very similar, story-wise, because I wrote them back to back. The other ones were very exploratory later on. But anyway, but then I saved the story of Gisman for 5 years before I went back and did the little bit of revisions before publishing it. So I already polished it many years after the initial writing it. So I don't know that it will need to be polished again, necessarily. We'll see. Maybe it will. But I expect the story of Gisman to be the easiest to rewrite this year. Anyway, all of that is to say, I have scheduled each month to be rewrites until August. Well, now you're crooked. Whatever. Just be there. My last camera would film for 30 minutes before it was like, are you still here? And it would shut off and go to sleep. This one is apparently like 20 minutes because I was not done talking. Anyway, it might have even just been 15. Goodness, I spent most of that trying to get Bubs to play happily by himself so I could sit here to film. Ugh. This is gonna be real fun to edit later. Point being, I don't remember what I said, to be honest. Where were we? Months. Each month is a book until August. I've given myself a little bit of wiggle room with that. If Always a Shadow, Dusty, and the Tragedy of the Traitor take 2 months for their revisions, or 3 months for their revisions, be like, okay, we can still handle this. If they take longer than that, we're gonna have a problem. Anyway, but in August, while I am presumably, hopefully, finishing up the last rewrite, which will actually be my dystopian trilogy, because I have 5 Robin Hoods, 3 dystopian trilogy, 8 books total. So, in August, I will be finishing up my dystopian trilogy. And that's the wiggle room, because if the Robin Hood books take longer, I will just save rewrites of the dystopian trilogy until next year, and just do Robin Hood this year, because I want to start publishing Robin Hood this year. I've lined up my cover designer. I am previewing like professional editors, which is not something I've used before. I'm very excited about this. I have all kinds of things in motion for the publication of the original Robin Hood series as Mandi Grace books. So, if the rewrites start to take a little bit longer than necessary, I will move the 3 books of the dystopian trilogy to next year, and then I have 3 extra months of wiggle room. That's the point. So if I need more space, I can just not write book 4 of the fantasy series this year and, you know, keep rewriting through November, but I don't really want to do that. I think that's basically everything to do with the rewrites situation. I'm going to be rewriting all of my books this year, presumably. I have a schedule, I've made goals, I've been making them so far, which is very exciting. I'm vlogging the entire experience, so stick around for that. Subscribe, ring the notification bell, you won't miss any videos. I think that covers the writing world. Fantasy story, Robin Hood stories, voila. In other news, I have a newsletter now, which I'm kind of excited about and kind of like, ugh, I can't believe I did this. So, everyone, everywhere, all over the indie world, internet, has always said that newsletters are a must-have for indie authors. And I always said, y'all are crazy, because I myself don't typically open newsletters that I am subscribed to. I don't care. I only open Bethany Atazada's, and not every month, or like each time she sends it either. Like, that should tell you how much I don't open newsletters, that I don't even open Bethany Atazada newsletters, okay? I just don't open them. So, to my mind, why would I go through the trouble of creating a newsletter if people aren't going to open them? But anyway, according to much more successful, important indie authors than I am, having a newsletter is paramount. After taking the Publish and Thrive course, I was told in no uncertain terms by Sarah Cannon that I needed a newsletter, so I've created a newsletter. So anyway, I have a newsletter. It's linked below, probably. Maybe I'll try and remember to link it, and you can go join and see what's up. So when I get covers for the original Robin Hood series and the dystopian trilogy and like all the things. That will be shared with my newsletter subscribers first. I'm actually working on this fun little secret project for the King Arthur fantasy series, which I'm sharing with the newsletter before anyone else. Yeah, lots of fun things that I'm going to be giving to the newsletter, you know, in the hopes of making it interesting enough for people to open it and read it. I don't know. I really don't understand the purpose of the newsletter, but I've been told that it's important, so I'm doing it. It's fine. I'm doing it once a month, though, so I don't really have to stress out about it. I think that covers all of author-ness. So, transitioning slightly into reading, I'm continuing the one book a month thing on professional development, which for the most part is writing craft books, but there might be a few other entrepreneur or business things. I have a giant stack of ever-growing writing craft books, so I think it's mostly going to be writing craft books, except for this one book called The Practice of Groundedness that the co-founder and hedgy mama of my writing group, Quill and Cup, just loves to quote at us sometimes, so I'm going to read it. But January's book that I've been not reading is Writing Fiction, A Guide to Narrative Craft by a bunch of people. I have not, so I filmed the intro for that, have not read a single page of it. It's going well. Yep. And in other reading news, I have read 27 pages of The Hero of Ages. Clearly, reading is not high on my priority list as I try to rewrite 8 books in a single year. I am planning on keeping track of my TBR and, like, trying to read the books that are on it, but because I have given myself massive writing goals this year, I'm not going to stress if I'm not reading on the TBR, necessarily. Excuse you, who asked you to get loud? I think that's a signal that I should be done here. So, rewriting 8 books in a single year, presumably, probably. Starting publishing Robin Hood series in August. If I stick to my plan, the publishing will start in August for the Robin Hood, and then each month I'll publish another Robin Hood. In December, I plan on, assuming everything goes as scheduled, I plan on publishing the last Robin Hood on the date that the original first Robin Hood was published, because I'm just that kind of person. And then in the new year, January, February, March, I'll be publishing the dystopian trilogy, assuming that they were rewritten. If I had to move them rewrites-wise, then I'll be rewriting them in the new year and then publishing them. We'll see how that goes. Hi! Yeah, are you playing? Okay. Yeah, you can come in. I can't film while you're on the screen. Why don't you go that direction? Hi. Hi. Yeah, I can't film while you're on screen. Cheese. That's so funny. Yeah, can I finish filming my video, buddy? Do you want to go over there? Go check out the flowers and the pillows. Or go to the playroom. Let's go to the playroom. Come on. Come on. Let's go to the playroom. Oh, now Ruby. Yeah, Ruby's awake now. Everybody's awake.